Welcome to the Numerology Podcast. I'm your host, Novalee Wilder. I'm a professional numerologist and writer. And in this podcast, we're just going to nerd out, which means we're going to talk names, we're going to talk numbers, astrology, numerology, the connections between the different esoteric fields. We'll do case studies and so much more. Today's episode is very special to me. It is a case study on Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Like many others, I was deeply saddened by the passing of U.S. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg on September 18th, 2020. She leaves a seat open on the court that, if filled with a conservative, could undo the progress made for gender equality, women's interests, civil rights, and liberties over the last couple of decades. I watched the documentary RBJ and the biographical drama On the Basis of Sex when they were released in 2018. They are actually being re-released this week when this podcast comes out, and all proceeds are going to the ACLU. Back then, in 2018, I sat with my notepad and I calculated the energies at play in Ginsburg's birthday and name vibrations, while being at once infuriated by the discrimination she had to endure and in awe of her unwavering focus on creating a more equal and just society for all of us. Today I'm sharing this little numerology case study to help you see just how much we're shaped by not only our birthday, but by the name vibrations we carry. Of course, there is always so much more to say about someone that I could cover here, and out of respect for people's privacy, there are things I won't discuss or disclose in a public setting, even if the numbers point to it clearly. Notorious RBJ, as she was lovingly nicknamed by lawyer and author Shana Knisnik, was one of only 9 women in a class of about 500 men when she enrolled at Harvard Law School in 1956. Because of the hurdles in getting both a clerkship and steady employment after graduation, her journey with the law early on became focused on challenging the laws that made discrimination on the basis of gender legal. I want to add a note here on seeing people in a nuanced way and how we read a numeroscope and birth date. No one is without flaws or challenges. While Ginsburg was a beacon of hope and a role model to many, she chose strategic advocacy that focused on gender-based discrimination, yet she did so in an incremental way instead of trying to reach far into the future and pull it closer in one fell swoop. Some of her votes on the Supreme Court on environmental or criminal justice were more conservative than one might expect from a liberal legal icon. She was a complex person and legal mind, and we will see this when we dive into her numbers. Ginsburg argued 6 gender discrimination cases before the Supreme Court between 1973 and 1976, and she won 5. She was nominated by President Jimmy Carter in 1980 to a seat on the Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit, where she served until 1993 when she was elevated to the United States Supreme Court by nomination from President Bill Clinton. In her 27 years on the Supreme Court, she authored the court's opinion in some landmark gender equality cases, and she penned multiple scathing dissents on behalf of the liberal minority. Joan Ruth Bader was born March 15, 1933, in Brooklyn, New York. Her parents were Jewish. When we look purely at her essence, and that's her birthday, the information we get is this. 15. 1 plus 5 is 6. That's her first base number. She is a 6. March. That's a 3, and within the sun sign of Pisces. 1933. 1 plus 9 plus 3 plus 3 is 16. 1 plus 6 is 7. That's her second or yearly base number. There are 9 base numbers, each one with specific gifts, challenges, and life goals. In numerology, we use the digit sum of larger numbers, unless we're talking about name vibrations, karmic lessons, and or life themes. If you want to learn more about each base number and yourself, you should go to novaleewilder.com and sign up for my newsletter. Then you'll get instant access to the free ebook, Your Numerological Essence. Let's get back to Ginsburg. She is a 6 and a 7. which tells us she was born with a heart that beat fiercely for other people, and a mind that saw greater challenges and structures in play when it comes to sharing and distributing resources for a community. This combination of base numbers and sun sign could make someone a patron of the arts or drawn to working with architecture, social work, or education. A loving yet strict teacher who loves the beautiful things in life, has an eye for detail and presentation, and wants to see everyone enjoy an equal playing field. The base number 6 is connected to Venus and has life lessons connected to love, boundaries, and service. 6s can be very stubborn and strong-willed, and if they have struck out a course, a challenging path for themselves, it can be very tough to change their mind. There is an element of pride and self-sufficiency in their emotional makeup, and this can make it hard for them to give up and accept help, even if it looks like they are in a hopeless endeavor and need assistance. 6s are prone to sacrificing themselves for causes and people close to their hearts. There is a distinct parental element to this base number, and in Ginsburg's own words from the RBJ documentary, "I did see myself as a kind of kindergarten teacher in those days, because the judges didn't think sex discrimination existed." RBJ argued for looking beyond our borders to foreign law and norms to shape US law. The 7 in her second base number points to this interest and openness in implementing and being inspired by ideas from beyond one's own circles. If 7s don't travel the world, they spend a lot of time visiting other places in their mind. There are particular aspects of Ginsburg's birthday and the interaction of her base numbers that have to do with the influence of micro and macro scale ways of inflicting change. Base number 6 is connected to our heart chakra and base number 7 to our crown chakra. So Ginsburg had a unique way of looking at the interactions of our relationships and life from very up close and personal, and then being able to dissect it all from a higher perspective. The base number 6 is also connected to the sun signs of Libra and Taurus, so working with justice and tangible change for the feminine and for minorities is very on brand for this combination. I also can't help but notice that any 6 would find it against their nature to not care about the persona they present to the world. So Ginsburg's collection of collars she wore with her black robes for the court, her fishnet gloves, and ways of using her clothing to signal an opinion was such a stylish yet natural power move. If you want to understand more aspects of the following numbers, you will need a copy of my book, A Little Bit of Numerology. It's available nationwide and on Kindle. I'm going to walk through the chart. You don't need to do it now. It's in the book too. A, I, J, Q, and Y have the numerical value of 1. B, K, and R has the numerical value of 2. C, G, L, and S has the numerical value of 3. D, M, and T has the numerical value of 4. E, H, N, X has the numerical value of 5. U, V, and a double V has the numerical value of 6. O and Z has the numerical value of 7. And F and P has the numerical value of 8. That's the chart we're using. Since she was born Joan Ruth Bader and her married last name was Ginsburg, she carries the name vibration for Joan, 14.5, for Ruth, 17.8, and for Bader, 14.5, and for Ginsburg, 25.7. So, as I said, if you want to look at the numeroscope and what I'm talking about right now, you will have to get the book and calculate it. But you don't need to just to follow along with the next steps. When I look at Ginsburg's numeroscope, and that's how her name and her birthday interacts, it gets very clear that she was born to be an incredibly hard worker. Even with the name change after her marriage, there's so many indications of being able to push through and sacrifice physical comfort for the sake of something greater. The name vibration 14-5 shows up twice in her numeroscope and has to do with connection, communication, speaking, writing, the media or stage, a good amount of influence, logical thinking, and enjoyment when it comes to debating or fighting or just getting your point across. There is a really big emphasis on voice here. This name vibration definitely toned down some of the harmony-seeking elements of her first base number in favor of sharing and defending or criticizing a point of view. The name Ruth carries the 17-8 vibration and is a fortunate name vibration when the person carrying it has made it their mission to work for the greater good. It draws attention and spotlight to the path one embarks on, and there is a promise of being remembered beyond the limits of one lifetime. Numerologists often point to the choice that someone carrying this vibration has to make between becoming notorious or celebrated, since the vibration will find a way of expressing itself no matter what. Before marrying Martin Ginsburg in 1954, the life theme in her numeroscope had an extraordinary focus on toughness, work, independence, survival, and a good deal of temperament. No doubt this served her well and got her noticed throughout her school years, while not inviting a lot of close relationships. This energy turns anger inwards, which can make it fuel, but can also make it hard sometimes to express it right in the moment. We sit with it. It festers a tiny bit. No one is born with this kind of life theme without having a lineup of challenges coming their way that they need this extra toughness for. After her marriage, her life theme changed in a way that must have opened her world up in many ways. Not only is there more love available, but also more help from others. Her new life theme points to a sense of greater responsibility. 25-7 is a vibration I often see in lawyers, actually. There's a tendency to solve problems for others that one is unable to solve for oneself. Some of the things that stand out from her numeroscope are rebellious or unorthodox problem solving. This points to a mind that just thinks outside of the box to break the box, or finds a different way of dealing with a problem than other people has done before, or just like a trailblazer, the first to think or push forward in this arena. There is also a theme about a growing and grounded belief in her own voice and contribution, and a sense of purpose that must have felt like a very strong force in her life. There are certain challenges for everyone carrying the 25-7 vibration, as it gives us a tunnel of learning as part of our life. If we pay attention to our lessons, we will get through it fast. But for others, it can be a long road to finally be able to master the gifts and handle them with care. One of the biggest obstacles I see in Ginsburg's numeroscope is the juxtaposition between her second base number's need for breaks, 7 is the number for pauses and divine intervention, and the relentless push of responsibility that 25-7 brings. She would undoubtedly have benefited from more rest and recuperation between her fights with cancer, yet it was also her sense of duty and enjoyment of her work that got her through so many of them. If you want more insights into the life and achievements of this brilliant legal mind and trailblazing feminist, I recommend watching RBJ, or On the Basis of Sex, today, and picking up Linda Hirschman's Sister-in-Law, or Notorious RBJ by Erin Carman and Shannon Knisnik. I have written another case study on Quincy Jones, and interestingly, he was born just one day before Ruth in 1933. I don't know why I was so called to do these two interesting people, very different but very interesting people. They both share the second base number of 7. That case study is really interesting. You can find it on the blog, novaleewilder.com/blog, if you want to read it. And in next week's episode of the Numerology podcast, I will have recorded the case study for you to listen to too. I hope this was interesting for you. If you loved this episode of the Numerology podcast, please don't forget to subscribe to it, share it, leave us a review, and I will see you in the next episode.